Okay, this is Misery Loves Company, a weekly social reading series hosted by miserytourism.com. We have transgressive and outsider artists. They come in, they read their shit. That's pretty much all there is to it. You can, if you're watching this on YouTube after the fact, if you follow us at miserytourism.com, you can see when the next reading is. It's every Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We drop the link on Twitter. You can join. We don't give a shit who you are. Any variety of weirdo, any variety of degenerate, we don't give a fuck. Come in, read your shit. Okay. Tonight, I think we've only got 2 scheduled readers, and we've got a pretty small group. And I have a feeling as the holidays get closer here, we're probably not going to have that many people. But first up, I have Tyler. I think I saw you, Tyler. Are you with us?
Yep.
Hey, so you're going to read a piece that hasn't been released yet, but that's coming out early next year in Expat, I think?
Yeah. My first ever piece on Expat. They're booked up through the end of the year, but I get to be published on New Year's Day, like literally the first piece they publish in 2021. So that's pretty cool.
Awesome. Wow. So Happy New Year. I'm sure this is going to be something that's going to, after this terrible fucking year we've had, I'm sure whatever you've posted is just going to make people feel a lot of joy and optimism and just make them just happy to positive thinking shit, basically. I'm not going to belabor this joke. It's all yours.
Well, we'll see. Yeah, and I cleared it with Manuel, and he says that it's fine if I read it so long as I plug Expat. So go over there, read all their shit. They got some good stuff. The bunch of us have been published there, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
And
I didn't
join that family.
I didn't ask him before reading here but you know what? He fucked up. He was supposed to publish it on a certain day. He didn't. So I said, you know what?
You are not going to let that go, are you, Josh? Anyway.
But I love him, and also I want to meet him in New York the second the border closure ends. So anyways, I'll shut up. But just, yeah. So you're better than me, and actually demonstrating professionalism that I admire.
Okay, Tyler. I'll make sure I link to, what's the word I'm looking for? I'll make sure that I tag Manuel in the post too, so people can look at his Twitter account and see more of expat stuff. Okay.
Cool. Okay, I got it on a paste bin. I'm just gonna make sure it works real quick. The link, I mean. Yep. All right, we got it there. Everybody ready?
Yep, you sound great. We're all good. And link works.
All right. Yeah. So this story is called As Long as You Need. They're in the breeding building and it was hot and smelly. Carter was making his rounds and looking over his shoulder at Danny periodically. The day had gotten off on the wrong foot. Danny was crashing on Carter's couch at the moment, as he had been doing for the past 6 weeks since Cecily had tossed him out. One day, Carter had brought home the news that the farm was hiring. A bunch of people had quit or just stopped showing up after the big COVID scare they'd had. Spence had given supervisors the go-ahead to take some more people on. Carter told Danny he could get him an interview as soon as the next day. Danny'd heard this, and he'd gotten excited. He'd been passing Carter a couple 20s every now and again from odd jobs he was doing around town, each time with a downcast mumble that he wished he could give him some more. He was so happy with the prospect of steady work that he went out that night and did his drinking at Donna's for a change. Insisted on treating Carter to a few rounds and talked all evening about turning a new corner in his life. Carter had left around 10:30. Told him, don't get too drunk, okay? You gotta be there bright and squirrely. Of course, the fucking guy never came home, and Carter had fumed all the way to work, smacking the steering wheel, only to pull up and find Carter waiting at the front gate. The guy he was getting a ride from had punked out on him, and so he'd done the responsible thing and slept in a dry culvert down the road from the farm. Carter had been ready to give Danny an epic bitch out, but now, since everything had worked out, he had to swallow it and take Danny into the office as originally planned. All that anger was just sitting behind his eyes like 2 bundles of rocks. Made him feel slow and distracted. He awkwardly walked Danny through the interview spiel he gave to everybody, gave Danny a set of clothes and took him to the shower. When Danny stepped out, he looked a lot better, although since there was no shampoo, you could still faintly smell cigarettes in his hair. He gave Danny a tour of the operations. Brood floor, battery cage racks, feed hoppers, grow out house. Danny widened his eyes attentively and nodded a lot. Carter looked him over carefully. He was in all likelihood still drunk, and Carter wasn't sure whether to believe he'd really slept either. He looked Danny over for signs that he was having difficulty keeping up or falling into one of his weird moods. He seemed okay so far. In mid-morning, Carter had some rounds to do, and he handed Danny off to Joffre, who continued the whole routine while Carter half paid attention from the far side of the room. Carter watched Danny as Joffre showed him what he would be doing if he got hired on here. The layers were all restrained in racks in front of them, and Joffre was going up to the bird on the far end of the rack and directing Danny's gaze to an area on the underside of the animal. He gave the section a little squeeze with practiced hands. The whole cloaca turned inside out, and the cervix popped up in front of his face like the eyes on one of those stress dolls you squeeze. Danny was tickled pink by this. He laughed in a strange, high-pitched tone, maintained a steady at that exact same tone for a really long time. Asked Joffre to do it again, and he did. At Joffre's prompting, he gently took the bird by the abdomen and tried it himself. In a couple of goes, he got it. He laughed and laughed like a kid at the circus, made the cervix pop out over and over while saying bloop, bloop. Joffre then picked up the pipette and plunked it right into the cervix, and Danny just couldn't handle this. Carter looked at Joffre for signs that Joffre was getting weirded out, but if there was any discomfort there, Joffre didn't show it. I guess it was pretty funny when you thought about it. Carter went to lunch after that and didn't see Danny again for the rest of the day. In the afternoon, he found some pretext to wander into the front office. Judy was there, pecking thoughtfully at the computer. Carter asked her what had happened to the skinny guy. "Oh, your friend," Judy said. Carter was privately a little annoyed Danny had revealed that information. He didn't want to be known around as the kind of guy who was always trying to get his friends jobs. The hires such a person tended to bring in were awful. Usually only lasted a few days before either flaking or making some horrendous fuck-up. He knew Spence didn't like it. But Judy said that Spence had hired him on. Carter was taken aback, but okay, that was what he'd wanted after all. Judy said she'd given Danny the new hire paperwork. Well, where was Danny now, Carter asked. Danny had taken the paperwork home, Judy said. He had to be someplace and was going to bring it back in when he started tomorrow. Carter said thank you and left the office trailer saying, "What the fuck," under his breath. He clocked out as soon as he could get away with it and tore off down Highway 27, keeping his eyes peeled on the shoulder. Sure enough, there was Danny's bony form. From the back with his long, skinny legs and big, puffy Carhartt jacket, he looked like some sort of scarecrow puppet dangling on the string, with his legs just ambling lightly along the ground, making the motions of walking. Carter pulled over and Danny said hey and got into his truck without another word. They drove along for a little while. Danny was quiet, but he was usually quiet. Nothing in Danny's expression suggested there was any burning topic to talk about between them. Finally, Carter asked, "Well, where's your paperwork?" "Oh, that," Danny said, as if he just remembered. "I pitched that, threw it into a creek." Carter waited a bit and then asked if Danny was going to take the job. Danny did not treat this like the stupid question it was. "No," Danny said, "I'm really not. Wish I could, but I can't. You see, Joffre brought me to this pile of sick birds, and they started to ring them." Danny illustrated this point with his fist clenched and a snapping motion in his wrist. "Joffre told me to start ringing," Danny said. "Your boss Spence was there too, so I knew I had to impress him. Well, I picked this bird, sick, mouth popping open and shut. I picked it up and whirled it around. It flapped some. I whirled it around again harder and the thing got real agitated. I got spooked and I whirled it around and around and around. Fucking bird's neck stretched out about 3 times longer and it wouldn't die. It was still blinking and opening its mouth and looking up at me. I was having a panic attack about how much I was making this bird suffer. No one asked for that in life, you know? No one needs that. It was making my heart race and all I could do was whirl harder. Didn't know what I was doing. I think I would have whirled that bird's head right the fuck off if Spence hadn't stopped me." "That's good," he said. "You'll get the hang of it." Danny relayed all this while staring straight ahead at the road. His voice was involved and animated as he told the story while his body sat still and sunken into the truck seat. Can't do that day in, day out, Danny said. Fucked me up real bad. Never going to be any good at it, I can tell. Always going to second guess myself. Emotionally, that's really not good for me. Carter didn't know what to say to that, so he just said, okay. I'm sorry, man, Danny said. I know you stuck your neck out to get me an interview. Carter said, no, I didn't really. That was true. He really hadn't. Danny was his normal goof-ass self that evening. He must have still been rattled about the neck thing on some level, though, because Carter noticed that he bought tall boys at Casey's that evening instead of a normal-sized six-pack like usual. He chugged one as soon as he got home and had another before dinner. Carter and Viv ate while Danny watched Big Bang Theory and laughed at the jokes. Viv tapped Carter on the shoulder and whispered she was ovulating. Carter said, okay, and they went to bed early. Later, they were having sex, and Carter was draped over Viv with his arms wrapped around her shoulders and humping like a madman. He was on the edge of coming, but the sound of the TV was distracting him. Danny had done the thing where he was feeling real beery, but he didn't want to go to sleep yet, so he turned up the volume higher to keep himself awake. It was a Will and Grace rerun now, and that annoying lady was doing that squealing voice of hers. Carter felt like it was getting funneled right into his ear. Every time Carter felt his orgasm within reach, that bitch squealed something else. He sweated and tried to look into Viv's eyes and thrust harder and harder.
You remain the master of really disgusting details. The everything about the cloaca stuff with the bird and the way, even like the way you described the sound of the guy's laughter, it just deeply, like wonderfully disconcerting, gross shit. And I like that this piece is just, I really enjoyed like the dialogue between the two guys at the end of the piece, because I thought, yeah, that's exactly how they would say it. And like, it's simultaneously really, like, you think on the one hand, this guy is making a pretty astute moral point, but on the other hand, like, he seems so like such a schmuck, just so pathetic. I don't know. You just really nailed the dialogue there. And yeah, and like I don't know, like the moral, like non-journey of the piece to the end, where like that they're just, he's just trying to like, he's basically just trying to fuck his girlfriend over the sound of the TV. I mean, I don't know, it's just like perfect, like slice of life shit that like edges into the profound and then puts its hands up and backs away. I don't know, it's a really great piece.
Thank you, thanks.
Next up is Josh Sherman. He's got a
Sure. Just yeah, the one story which I think I sent you a link for.
Yep, I've got it.
Before that, just a very short poem that I didn't clear with Cavan, but it's coming out on Back Patio Press with two others next year early. So I don't think he really cares about much. So I'm going to read one from that handful of things, and I'll read the short story, which came out last year on Hobart.
Awesome. I just put the link to the Hobart piece in the chat, and I'll make sure it goes up on Twitter as well.
So I'm just going to start off because the poem's super short, then I'll go into the story. Poem is Dendrology. Have you heard about the great bristlecone pine? It's the oldest living thing. It can grow to be like 5,000 years old. That's what it felt like when I met her, like something 5,000 years old was suddenly alive. And, I'm worried it's a bit cheesy. I don't know, it's kind of a love poem. Don't really do that. Anyways. And now for the story, which ended a 7-year inability to get anything published, which was nice. And in a journal I very much admire, Hobart. I think all of you are probably familiar with Hobart, but it was kind of a big thing for me because I'm just going to DM and okay, well, I better finish within 15 minutes because I have an Amazon package arriving. The story is I used to watch Touched by an Angel with my grandmother on CBS. I remember the snow. I remember it falling there outside the living room window, coating things and making them soft and white and pure. My grandmother's Bible yawning wide open on her lap and all that untouched snow. It was before seasonal depression. It was before every season meant depression. It predated all that sadness and came at a time when the forecast was a feeling and not something to prepare for. It wasn't a prescription, but a matter of possibility. Yeah, I used to look forward to it, the shitty weather. I'd go to bed praying for snow. Lord Jehovah, in Jesus' name, please, God, let it snow tonight. Please, Father. I never knew my dad, so I prayed to one. On my bedside table, I had this flower lamp that changed colors. I didn't like to be in complete darkness. I watched the lamp turn from turquoise to yellow to pink, and I prayed for snow. Turquoise, yellow, pink, snow. I wanted it to snow because then we could go cross-country skiing. Me and my grandmother would walk to the end of our street and pass through a hole someone had cut in the fence separating our subdivision from a golf course. We put our skis on and we glided. We glided over the low hills and across the fairways and greens. The ponds were smooth and gray but kind of slushy around the edges. Gliding over the whiteness reminded me of the angels she told me about. Must be like being an angel. Must be like the angels untouched by an angel, which we watched on an aging faux wood paneled TV set when I came home from school. The show was about angels who intervened in everyday life. You didn't know they were there. There were angels all around us. Eventually, I'd learn to be an angel. I'd have to. Not a snow angel like the ones I made in our front yard, but a real one. Jesus was going to come back to earth, and you had to be ready for when he did. You had to know what to do. The whole family would have to get up on our roof when that time came. Jesus would deliver us while the whole world burned and turned to ash. We'd be floating above it all together, a family. Like gliding over the fairways in the snow together, around the slushy ponds. Would my favorite spot by the trees on our yard burn? It would. How about the street I played hockey on? Yes, my grandmother prepared me for the destruction to come. She laid it all out. When Jesus came, we couldn't look back. We couldn't check to see if we'd got everyone with us, or take one last look at the homes or the snow or our pets even. If we did, we'd turn to salt. It was in the Bible. We'd been warned. That was how it was. One time in the mall parking lot, I told my grandma that I hoped Jesus didn't come back, not while I was alive. We were on our way home from a craft store at the mall. I used to draw a lot and do crafts. I wasn't allowed to draw people or have Lego men because they were graven images. But I found a workaround by making likenesses of buildings and cars. They just couldn't have drivers or other people inside. Nobody at the steering wheel. The plane's flying itself. My grandma wanted to know why I didn't want to be there when the world ended. She said I'd be lucky to see it. But how would I know when to climb up on the roof? What if I didn't? What if I missed my cue and my mom looked back and turned to salt? And what if he wasn't really coming? What would the other families think of us standing on a roof like that? We had other beliefs too. Whenever I walked into a place, I was supposed to say, "Peace be to this house." That would keep me safe and make sure nothing went wrong. And when I got sick, Grandma would rub this ointment on my forehead and vanquish the devil. It was a good thing it worked because I wasn't allowed to go to the doctor. Sometimes school got in the way, like they'd have a dentist come in and check all the kids' teeth and make sure everything was all right. I was told not to let them look inside my mouth. God would fix it all. So I hid in the library looking at National Geographic and the naked tribeswomen. My grandmother's beliefs have been passed down to her by her mom, who lived with us in a big house in a suburb just north of Toronto. I called her Mama, and I still don't know any other name to call her. It's too late to ask. Mama had white hair, had had it since she was 20. She didn't dye it blonde like my grandmother did or put it in rollers. I think Mama's name was Gail. Mama and I had games we'd play. We didn't ski, but we'd riff on the idea of a slow boat to China. That was our favorite game. It went like this. One of us would describe a worse way of getting around than a slow boat to China and relegate the others to that fate. I'll put you on a brick to nowhere. You'll ride a steamroller to eternity, a snowplow to forever. The seasons go on, one then another. After a while, the order doesn't seem to matter, really. Like an alarm clock, the cicadas sing in the suburban summer at the exact same time every afternoon. They start when it seems as if the sun is stuck. It's so high up there that the only logical thing for it to do is stay there. The air is thick. Maybe that's what keeps it up there. People are on the golf course and there's no snow, so I play road hockey with my friends. I'm in net because I can't play any other position. Whenever a car approaches, someone yells, "Car," and we pull the nets aside to let them pass, like in a Canadian Tire commercial or something. It's mostly minivans. One time it wasn't a minivan or a station wagon or a sedan or anything, though. An ambulance rushed down Baby Fairway's drive rather. It pulled up to my house. The game just kind of ended. My friends left. The sun stayed where it was. Where else could it go? At my front door, my aunt told me to play inside. The ambulance was already gone by that time. The cicadas stopped singing at some point, the music of their wings expiring. I was working on a model of the Empire State Building with yellow bricks because I read that the real Empire State Building was made of limestone, and for whatever reason, Lego bricks seemed like limestone. There was nobody on the observation deck. I made it pretty tall. Later, I learned that Mama had brain cancer when she was a lot younger. I guess cancer treatments were about as good back then as they are now. She had survived and went on to live another few decades with all her white hair. Thinking about it now, she was always up in her room, always tired. She was on her own slow boat to China, though we didn't know it then. Her own brick to nowhere. Because when the ambulance came to get her, it was somehow related to how the cancer had come back, how it had spread. So the ambulance came, and I don't know if we called car when it did, or what the score was that day. We went to visit her a couple of times at the hospital, but I don't remember much. Not the kinds of things you need for a story if that's what this is. Not the way it felt to see her under the covers. Not how the hospital was different from home and the games we played. Not how she spoke or what she said, or leaving down the hall, passing doorways of suffering painted a subtle green. I was the last to find out. My grandmother always had cats that lived to impossible ages. There's still a picture of me somewhere with Prissy, an ashtray gray Persian cat that came to live with the family before I was born. Nobody knew how old Prissy was when she showed up on the doorstep in Scarborough before I was even a thought or a regret or a miracle. But she lived 20 years with the family, eventually making it all the way onto my lap in a photo taken in 1989. When she died, she just wasn't there. I had to ask about her. She wasn't in the usual place. When the sun made geometry on the living room floor, she didn't appear. She was dead. That's how I found out, by asking. Grandma made sure the cats had everything they needed. Once in the first grade, I said that Rocky, her geriatric Maine Coon, was my best friend. Maybe that's true. It's normal to be jealous of friends. So it makes sense that I didn't find out when everyone else did. I think the idea was to protect me. But when you try to protect someone from the inevitable, the pressure only builds. It's better for the dam to break earlier.
Oh, wow. That was powerful. That was really, really, really fucking good. I
A bit more serious than some of the other stuff that I bring.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, it works, and it works incredibly, incredibly fucking well. And I think when you're writing about like childhood, a lot of people, especially when you're writing about a child growing up in a home that's abnormal on some level, a lot of writers, I think, make the mistake of focusing on the abnormality there. And what you've done here is like focusing on what's normal about it, right? Like what's universal about it and the kind of shit that kids actually dial in on, because like you don't know that, like as a kid, you don't know you're growing up in a fucked up like religious fanatic home. You just know you're growing up in a home and you're having these same sort of experiences, you're playing these same sorts of games, and that shit is just weird background noise. And I really like this really, really captures the reality of childhood in a way that, like, I was listening and I was like, yeah, I've had these experiences, It was just fucking great.
Well, thanks so much, because actually I was thinking as you were taught, as some conversation began at the beginning about religion and growing up in that moment that you discovered, what if this isn't, and that comfort that you felt initially. And yeah, it's I was like, okay, I think I'm reading the right, actually it's serendipitous, but this is the right thing to read. And
Yeah.
I
Definitely.
struggled for a long time with the voice. This is a story that it took 7 years between my last story published and then this one, which
Mhm.
then of course stuff was more consistent after. And it's because I couldn't figure out the voice. I didn't know.
Yeah.
I couldn't figure out like the voice of a child. I didn't want to do the voice of a child, but I wanted to be kind of naive. I don't know. So thank you for the feedback because I think it sounds like it got across what I was hoping for.
You know, it had a little bit of naivete in it, but it didn't double down on the naivete. That's like one of those things, you know, when you're reading like a bad, cloying story about childhood, when the kid is a complete fucking idiot and is totally naive. You know, I like the way that this is like starts with like the world weariness of adulthood and with seasonal depression. You can tell it's filtered through the lens of an adult trying to recall childhood and trying to recapture that. And I think that was a really wise move rather, because sometimes when people try to force themselves totally into that child space, you end up with this like weird, like manic caricature of childhood that I don't think is honest. And this felt real, as someone who grew up in like, not quite this level of like fanaticism, but in a similarly like religious home, a lot of this rang very true to me.
Well, that's the best thing I've heard about it. Actually, even the Hobart response was positive, but thanks for that. And thanks for the comments too. I see that things were coming in, and thanks for anyone who commented. So
Yeah, one of the like coolest things about this, like I know when I read, it's like you're reading, and you got that tunnel vision, and it's the only thing you can think about, and then you stop and you're like, oh my god, what the fuck did I just do? Did I destroy that? Did I butcher that? And then you go through and you read the comments, and it's, I don't know, it's really gratifying, and it's a lot of relief to go through and just look at what people said about the work.
oh, absolutely.
Next up, actually nobody is next up, it's open mic next. But I know, Derek, you had sent me a message before that you had something you wanted to read. And I know Rudy, if Rudy's with us. You're with us, right, Rudy?
Yep.
Rudy, you had a game that you wanted to demo too, right?
Yeah, I may still do that if at the end of open mic here.
Cool. So, Derek, did anyone else? I'm trying to think if anyone else kind of hit me at the last minute here. I don't think so. Oh, Sam, you said, I think you said you might have a piece to read too, right? Or am I confused? Not sure if Sam is with us. Oh yeah, he just unmuted. And then he just remuted. And then he just
And
unmuted.
I'd just like to say, shout out to Canadian Tire, and if for all your household needs, to consider Canadian Tire.
How many of your stories or poems do you think mention Canadian Tire?
These were the only two I thought. I actually realized after I'd forgotten I even mentioned it in this one because it was a while ago. But yeah, that's where I get my. That's where I get my Hot Wheels. So just got this Honda City Turbo 2.
Holy
Oh,
shit,
cool.
dude. Hot Wheels? Fuck.
So
Man, you're
yeah.
gonna get us a Hot Wheels sponsorship if you just keep
the
keep
real
shipping
riders,
Hot
rubber
Wheels.
wheels. There's real rubber wheels.
Anyway, Sam, I saw you there. Did you have something? I feel bad. I keep making Sam mute and unmute. You with us, Sam? I see you muting and unmuting here. I don't know if you're struggling with your mic or what. You said you can go. I just saw in the chat you said you'd go after Derek. Okay, you're all set.
Yeah.
So we'll do Derek and then Sam, and then if anyone else wants to read, that's cool. So Derek, you're up next.
Okay, can you guys hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you pretty clearly.
Pretty clearly. Okay, that's not a super vote of confidence.
You're a
It
little
sounds
choppy.
sexy and good.
You're just
Deep
a little
bass.
bit choppy. I think it might be a connection thing because it's got that little bit of like underwater kind of sound to it.
Okay, why don't we let Sam go first and let me switch to something then because my connection is pretty bad right now.
Okay, that's fine. Sam, it's all yours.
All right. This is called. This is another dream I had. Anyway, this song or this piece is called "Heaven, Hell, Possibly Hell." On January 19th, 1996, at 3 a.m., everyone stopped dying. Garrett Sullivan is having a heart attack. He is surrounded by doctors and nurses, prepping for his surgery. His eyes clasped shut, open wide, clasped shut, open wide, to the rhythm of his struggling heartbeat and breath. Suddenly, palpitations cease, and his heart beats in a measured, purposeful 60 beats per minute. His eyes roll toward the noonday sun, directly above him in the windowless room. The doctors are already staring at staring at the ceiling. The head surgeon and nurse drop scalpels to the floor. Morgan McCoy, Narcan just too late, and declared dead but not actually dead, stands to look into the vacant faces of the ambulance team. They are staring upward, and so does she. Eveline Thornton has small cell lung cancer. Each day, for the past week, she has sat gasping for breath under oxygen. Her lungs are clumped together. There is no surface area among the alveoli to absorb oxygen. They sit like thick-set popcorn. Suddenly, all tumors dissolve. Oxygen is made irrelevant as she and her nurse and the surgery staff move their gaze upward. Dr. Wu, head of critical care, Dr. Phillips, most likely to succeed him, and Dr. Thompson, who is currently drunk and being made or broken on this performance, all move their gazes upward. Betsy Slager, CNA, goes to clasp Eveline's neck, but stops and looks up. I was at the library reading my professor's dissertation when I stopped. The pain in my chest and shoulders and my anxiety towards my life ceased. I looked up. I simply had nothing to do. They were on TV the next day, the ex-dad. They had woken up, walked home, and explained the situation to their relatives. These were not zombies, but the living. Flesh and bone, reanimated, but also reinvigorated. This would be a dramatic experience if death existed. But since everyone understood death no longer existed, it was welcome. My grandma had died of lung cancer when I was in 4th grade, and now I could grieve to her about it. But I don't. We sit silently next to one another. Instead, we hold hands at first. No grieving happens when death becomes fantasy. There is no time for such a word when God steps out. And that's it.
Now, you said this was a piece based on a dream as well?
Yeah, about I just dreamed that death wasn't a real thing anymore.
I only ask because it has that moment where everyone kind of just understands that death doesn't exist anymore, as opposed to like there being this like upheaval or shock. And that feels like really strongly like dream logic, where you just like know some fact about reality to be true, even though it's absurd, you know?
Yeah. I think it's kind of like Heideggerian, I guess. Just time stops, so no one fucking gives gives a shit anymore.
Yeah, no, that's great. It really had it had that cadence to it too, right? Like even in the way it was like structured and presented of this kind of time dilation, this kind of sense of like this kind of like just like dwelling on this moment. There's a moment in one of my favorite movies, my God, by Tarkovsky. I think that the movie's called Mirror, right? I think it's like Zerkalo or something in Russian, where he just watches like the ring of condensation that's left behind by a teacup gradually just evaporate, and like time slow. You're watching something that happens every day, but because it's framed in a cinematic way, time slows to a fucking halt, and that like 5-second scene feels like an eternity. And this piece had that same kind of energy where it just slows down and time dilates, which is, I think, pretty apt for a piece kind of based on a dream, right? It kind of
Yeah.
floats.
I use too many dreams for inspiration, but
I don't think so. I mean, I've
I've
written.
been leaning on them hard.
I don't know. I mean, I think you have to have your thing, right? Like it helps to have like a consistent source of inspiration, because I know I spend a lot of time just flailing around trying to figure out what's worth writing about. So if you have a kind of consistent source of inspiration, I think that that's how you develop a voice or whatever, you know?
Sure wish I could remember my dreams. Because I remember having had really cool dreams, but then nothing sticks around except for a couple images. Like, if I had dreams with full narratives like those, I'd be set.
Dude, they're sick. They're my favorite dreams.
I don't know. I just have like my dreams are like totally incomprehensible, like just like a complete jumble of like ideas and things that happen, or they're like the most awful banal shit like you see on TV, right? Like, oh no, I'm back in high school and I forgot to do whatever, like I've got an assignment due. It's just
Well, have you ever read Proust?
no, I haven't.
Dude, you should fuck with Proust because
Original sniper
you
writer.
like Nabokov,
I do, yeah.
so you'd love Proust, man.
Oh, I'll have to definitely
Get the Minecraft translation of oh fuck, what is the first one called? It's not Within a Budding Grove. That's the second one. Anyway, one of those two. Fucking grab some Proust, dude.
I definitely
Love 'em.
will. I kind of get in this rut where I just keep reading the same authors over and over again, so I'll definitely give him a try.
William, you like Nabokov?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. That's I wish I liked Nabokov.
How can you not? Sorry.
You know,
Only like Lolita. I haven't read much of
the thing with
Nabokov.
Lolita though is some of my favorite passages that are more lyrical are kind of referencing like de Sade and stuff, like which is fine.
Oh, yeah.
Like incest actually is but
I like
and
how
then he
nasty
wrote
that
a-
book.
pardon?
I like how nasty that book is. Just like fucking how.
Incest?
Oh, just nasty. Like
Yeah, but the
pornographic.
I thought that Nabokov would get it for me because I was a former competitive chess player, and I thought that like I would really like The Defense. I don't know if have any of you read The Defense, which was made into a movie, Lucian's Defense.
I am not sure.
No, I have not.
think that's one of the ones I haven't read. Let me
Yeah, and I thought I would love it because it's about a chess prodigy who goes insane. And chess, anybody who's been very much in the community will know the kind of people you encounter. I mean, it still didn't do it for me. I don't know.
Have you, so here's a question. Have you read Lolita at all, or any of his books that were written originally in English? Because I just looked up The Defense and it was written in Russian and then translated.
I read Lolita, and then I just thought that it just, I don't know. And it's just, yeah, I don't know. But, the same thing with Steppenwolf. People love Steppenwolf, and I just don't,
I didn't like Steppenwolf. I liked Narcissus and Goldman a lot more
Okay.
for like the Hess novels.
I'd consider,
And Siddhartha. Siddhartha was fucking dope.
okay, I'll
Yeah,
continue
the
with Hess.
Hess.
There were moments of Steppenwolf that I really liked. But the whole thing didn't, and I'm so inarticulate. I just don't know.
It felt like a moral tale, like the reason that the narrator was so jealous of Goethe or whatever was like Hess was trying to teach us a lesson or something.
Lord knows there are many lessons I need to learn. So with my Mullane is not here, a regular commenter, and there was some drama earlier with yeah, I won't. There was some Twitter drama, not between us, like directly. But
Did you scare off Mullane, Josh?
You can imagine the person who might have contributed to that drama. Maybe.
I can imagine many people who might have contributed to Twitter drama. But anyway, Mullane couldn't make it today. She tweeted about it or something. I saw that earlier.
Good. Well, she hasn't.
I assume she has programming to do.
Yeah, she said she'd be here next week probably, because she sent me a message saying she might have a piece to read next week.
Oh yeah.
Spoiler alert.
Is next week some interview thing too? I heard, or no? Is there not some interview?
I'm not sure if I'm at liberty to say anything about what she's going to read, so I'm not going to. But she did send me a message saying she had a piece she wanted to read, possibly next week. Anyway, I do want to move on to Derek here, so I won't say anything else about Nabokov, but I will say that there's a profound, and I'm going to say something.
You are going to.
Profound difference between his works published in Russian and then translated to English, and his works originally written in English. Now, he did do some of his own English translations, and I think his son either did or helped with some of his English translations, but there's still definitely I'm sure his Russian novels are amazingly lyrical in Russian, but they don't have that same kind of lyricism in translation. Whereas his English novels are just unbelievable in terms of
translate a bunch of his own books into English.
Yeah, he did.
He did.
I don't think you should be able to do that. That leaves a bad taste in my mouth. It's like giving yourself a nickname.
Yeah.
No, I think that's most authentic because translators have so much liberty. It can be like a really different book.
Well, like Thomas Mann collaborated with a translator. And
the collaboration is tight, but I really don't like, for instance, Knut Hamsun reading a Hunger translation. I have two different ones, neither of which relate to Hamsun. One is much better than the other, but I actually don't know which is closer.
I haven't read Knut Hamsun. I can't finish one of his books. I have
Hunger
the yellow. I have the
Mysteries.
yellow. I have the yellow.
Mysteries is amazing.
Hunger.
Hunger is actually a bit of a slog, and I think it only got popular because at the time there was nothing like it, or not much. But Mysteries flows beautifully, and
I love how Hunger goes to that bipolar,
Yeah.
he's hungry and then he's
Hunger-
fulfilled, and then he's just totally wrathful at everyone that was.
Hunger is
Everyone knows.
part of that trilogy of great existential novellas, right? It's Notes from Underground, Hunger, and The Stranger.
Oh, yeah.
And those three are
Stranger rocks.
Fundamental short works of early existential fiction. But the one I really loved was Growth of the Soil.
yes.
Oh yeah.
So
Kai loves that. Do you guys know Kai?
Sorry?
You guys know Kai?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He fucking loves that novel.
The only thing I don't like about Growth of the Soil is it's like a Celine situation where I like their work when they don't come out outright to be Nazis. And in Growth of the Soil, at the end of it, because it's covering this huge.
I kind of like them more when they're honest about it.
Agrarian to more urban, and at the end, Hamsun blames the Jew and the Yankee for the destruction of the civilization anew, and it was I get it, I'm a Jew, I don't care. I
kind of appreciate the
honesty.
honesty.
More subtle. it didn't come out in the other stuff. He didn't say the Jew and the Yankee are to blame. And in Growth of the Soil, at the end, he did, and he saved it for the end. But yeah,
You know what?
I think
part of the
that's
book-
fine because at least you can bracket it. You can go like, all right, well they were fucking retards there, and so I can just bracket that and set that aside
Yeah,
and
I mean,
enjoy the
really.
rest of the book.
I mean, I'm not suggesting canceling it. I'm just saying I
Yeah,
really
I
thought that
know.
I liked his work, and like
I
Celine
like it when the authors.
gets really open about his other stuff later, but just I like when their work is like protected against those people who will try to cancel them. Like I like Journey to the End of the Night because it's like try and cancel that. Like he doesn't.
Oh yeah, the fucking dude in Africa, like
Well,
talking about.
Okay, yeah. I mean, that's a mood.
I'm so sorry, Derek. I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
No,
seriously,
wait.
bad,
I need to
my
shut
bad.
up. I'm gonna mute myself. Bye.
No,
I love it. I loved every bit of that conversation.
Okay, Derek, it's all yours. I'm sorry about that.
All right. Sorry about my earlier troubles. I had to go outside because my son is still awake, and this story is not for a 9-year-old. So this is a work in progress. I'm reading it. By the way, I sound better now. Does it sound like okay?
Yeah. Yes, you sound clearer now. There's none of the breaking.
There's the whistle.
Okay. All right. Enough. So there is. Since I'm outside, a Hemi could in the south, a Hemi could come by at any point and make a lot of noise. But so this is a work in progress. I'm reading it aloud tonight, which I've never done before here for work in progress. I'm doing it because I have a particular issue with this piece that I'm trying to work out, and I think if I do it, it might help. So this is called Little Bits and Pieces. Everyone works at the restaurant, I think. Dave does. He busses tables. Christine does. She hostesses. I do. I wash dishes. Christine and I started seeing each other in March. It's November now. I had just come from another place. They asked me where they could drop me off when it was time to leave. They said, where do your parents live? They said, what about your brother? They said, isn't there anyone you can think of? They dropped me off in front of a coffee shop downtown when they tired of asking. Christine was out front. It was March then, like I said. The air was nice and cool. Christine was out front of the coffee shop downtown enjoying the nice, cool air and wearing tennis shoes with a skirt. The skirt was very short. The tennis shoes were very cool. Christine was very pretty. I asked her if I could sit down and join her. I said, I just came from the nut house. Everyone says I'm cured. It's a miracle. Let's celebrate. I'll buy you a drink. Do you drink hot chocolate? I bet this place has good hot chocolate. God, I was feeling chatty. God, what an embarrassment I was. Christine didn't mind. She liked me right off. What music do you like? I said, this is the music I like. What movies do you like? I said, these are the movies I like. What shows do you like? I said, I don't watch shows. I don't got that kind of time. Who does? She said. Who knows? I said. I made her laugh 3 times. A few weeks later, it was April and warmer, and I was walking up the stairs to her apartment. Don't worry about my roommate. She might be home. I won't. It's kind of a mess. I don't mind. It's really fucking messy. I seriously don't care. I sleep in a bathtub. I have severe anxiety disorder. Nothing you show me will make me not love you. But it was very messy. She was right about that. Are you going to come? She asked. She was tired of doing all the work, especially since she had finished, I could tell. No, probably not, I said. Do you ever come? She asked. Only when I do it myself, I said. I don't like it when you do it yourself, she said. I know, I said. I want to do it for you, she said. I understand, I said. I'm sorry, we said. Dave dropped off trays and trays and trays of dishes constantly. I washed them. Dave wanted me to turn off what I was listening to in the dish pit and put on something cool. Dave said he could get me whatever I needed. I just need you to drop off the dishes that need washing, Dave, and take back the clean ones to the front of the house. They're low on pint glasses. There's a situation with the pint glasses developing up front. It can't make its way back here. It just can't. Then it was August. Christine started mixing Coke and water and tapping it straight into her veins. I punched a college kid. Dave bought a gun. Everyone was floating in their own free world. Christine had her tennis shoes dangling over my legs. We were lying together on the couch. I stopped using, she said. I'm so happy, I said. True Gems of Wichita by the band Soul Coughing was playing loudly in another room. It stopped and then it started again. Now it was stuck in my head. My head kept thinking, pull your eyes towards heaven. Outside Topeka in the phone lines, her good teeth smile was winding down. I started to feel the bad stuff coming on. I was sitting on a couch before last year, when they came and grabbed my arm. One of them did. One of them grabbed my arm. The other one was whispered gently, trying to make me feel calm. I don't feel calm. I feel like a million stars are inside my chest, always exploding, and my body is set to explode too. I've been seeing Dave, she said. What does that mean? I asked. It means what you think it means, she said. I didn't say anything. I was crying. Dave sold her Coke, which she mixed with water and tapped straight into her veins. And he owned a gun and put blackout curtains over every window in his tiny, smelly, suicidal apartment. And there were pictures of naked women hanging up on the wall with Scotch tape, like he was proud to be an asshole. He listens to the worst music, I said. She laughed and said, you're listening to Soul Coughing. I don't think you can talk. I didn't put it on, I said. You aren't turning it off, she said. Screenwriter's Blues by Soul Coughing's playing loudly in another room. It stopped and then it started again. Now it was stuck in my head. My head kept thinking, Gone Savage for teenagers with automatic weapons and boundless love. I threw up all over her short skirt. It's November now anyway. Dave is nodded off in the front seat of his car. His car is parked on the shoulder of the highway. The last full moon before the winter solstice is the morning moon. Dave has been missing for 4 full days. Dave has promises and friendships and love like everyone else, and all of that feels broken now. The knock on the driver's side window wakes Dave up. Dave is startled. The officer asks Dave to step outside the vehicle. Life is a collection of stories. The ones we end up telling always surprise us. Officer down. Dave runs to the woods with his shotgun in hand. He has been trying for 4 days to kill himself with heroin, but the heroin sucks in this town. Everything is bright under the morning moon. The grass glistens from a recent rain. Dave is headed toward the creek. Dave stops and remembers everything, then blows his head off. Little bits and pieces of himself shower down, many of them embers. The sound travels. Little bits and pieces smolder on wet grass. Smells like autumn. Animals desperate to feed. It's still. Everyone, everywhere, whoever will tell you the same. It's still. They say you could walk up that path toward the creek decades later and still be picking up the pieces. I know what that's like.
Oh wow! Oh wow! Oh wow! Oh, wow! That was really, really fucking good. I loved that piece. It was, I love the the arc of that piece because it is so like wonderfully like jumbled makes it sound like a bad thing, but it's like manic, right? And it's manic and it's kind of like disoriented and lost in time and space, which is so perfect considering like where the characters in the piece go, right? I think there's that kind of perfect like unity of like cadence, tone, and character, which I think is something you see in like the best fucking shit. But what was it like? What did you want to ask about it?
Well, thank you. I really appreciate it. And I'm sorry that I sang Soul Coughing. That was.
No, that was awesome.
No, it's one of the more embarrassing things I'll do in life. I just don't. I just don't know if it should be longer, if it's supposed to be longer in the sense of bringing up the character who's going to perform the sort of brutal action that then shifts what the story was. If the fact that that character is so minor sort of leading up, almost to the point where in the beginning you're like, why is he even mentioned? Like, it's just a pretty standard love story. Why is he even mentioning Dave? You know what I mean? Like, so I've just thought back and forth about, you know, whether there needs to be more on Dave and more of a triptych type story or whatever.
Does Dave first appear when she mentions that she's having the affair with him? Is that the first time his name pops up in the story?
Dave's in the second sentence, actually, because it starts with everyone works at the restaurant, I think. Dave does. And then into Christine. So actually, Dave's the first person.
Mm-hmm.
But like, that's so far back in the beginning that like, you know, like you're not going to remember that or whatever. And that, you know, so anyway, yeah.
So he appears in the second sentence and then he reappears when she's talking about like her relationship with him.
He reappears dropping off trays, of dishes, and then So all you know is like, oh, okay, that dude like busts his tables, our narrator washes dishes, and then yeah, when they're on the couch and she says, I'm seeing so and so or whatever.
I mean, I'd love to hear what other people have to say, but I actually really like that approach because he's almost like a non-entity in the story. He's almost in the background until his existence becomes pertinent to the narrator, right? It isn't in like he's there, he's kind of in his life, but he doesn't become a relevant, meaningful character until he like forcefully intrudes on the narrator's life. And I think that's true of like the way that a lot of us handle some people, especially since it seems
That's a
like
good
he's
point.
basically kind of a loser. Like this loser isn't relevant until like your girlfriend is sleeping with him, and then suddenly he's pertinent, and then suddenly he's dead. Like I think, given like how disorienting the story is, and given how like disoriented the characters are, like characters that are struggling with addiction and mental illness and don't have their shit together, I think his arc in the story actually makes a lot of sense. And I think like personally, injecting him more forcefully earlier might create a like false like storyness to the story, like a false kind of structure. I don't know, that's just my thought on it. I see like four people unmuted their mics while I was ranting, so I will step back and see what other people have to say.
Well, I think like I don't I'm always in the camp of like less character, not more, like just minimalism. I think like if you want to write a longer thing, like something like the obnoxious term novelette, and extend this thing to a point where it's not quite something bigger, but it's at that point, sure, you could do that. But I agree with William. Like, I don't think like I think that I like when there are it's like people revealing themselves, right?
Yeah.
Um, and it's even within the narrative, it's like the reader discovers this one person who's kind of on the sidelines, and then all of a sudden they're not on the sidelines. They're very much in the thick of things, deep in, and and that's kind of the experience that the narrator is going to be going through. So I actually really like that. I don't think, but like but I think that there. That being said, I think that within the characters that are mentioned, I do think that like I think it could work as a longer work. And if you wanted to, if you're the kind of person who likes to experiment with characters, sure, you could do that. Yeah, just my impression is that actually I like that. I like that it's that you discover, just like the narrator, like what's going on. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
I I gotta say I really liked it too, and I'll tell you why. It's kind of a funny coincidence. I just watched Lost Highway last night, and if you've ever seen that movie, it does something similar where Bill Pullman is on all the posters and everything, and he's like in the first half hour, 40 minutes, and then the narrative changes then and follows a totally other different guy for a while, and they're like flip sides of each other in that Bill Pullman is worried that his wife is having an affair, and the other guy who is having an affair with another lady played by the same actress. So they're kind of like mirror images of each other's obsessions, and I think that's kind of what is going on here. That's the impression that I got from the main character and Dave, is that they're sort of mirror images of each other, and like I really like the contrast there.
Thank you. That's awesome, man. I love that movie so much, and I argue with people definitely about its place in Lynch's filmography or whatever. Lost Highway is legitimately probably the scariest movie I saw at the time that I saw it. So I'm 38. I think I was in maybe high school or very early college, and when I saw it, it freaked me the fuck out.
Oh yeah, it's horrifying.
Yeah. If you have any like problems with identity and self, like that is a like trigger warning type of movie.
Shout out
Thanks
to-
everybody for letting me. Yeah.
Shout out to Barry Gifford, though, as who I think kept that movie a little bit in check because he co-wrote it. I don't know if any of you have read Barry Gifford, but he's one of the greatest living pulp writers, and he's actually a co-writer of that with Lynch. And he did oh geez, the Sailor and Lula movie. Which is it? I have it here. It's Wild at Heart. Wild at Heart was written by Barry Gifford, which Lynch did early on, and then yeah. So I feel like Gifford kept a lot, but I don't understand Lost Highway fully. But the parts I do, I think I attribute to Gifford, and the parts I don't, I attribute to Lynch. But that's fine.
Yeah, I haven't seen Lost Highway, and I really haven't seen too many of Lynch's movies either. I've seen Eraserhead and Mulholland Drive, and I don't know, maybe one or two others. I'll have to check Lost Highway out. Was there anyone else who wanted to read? Did I miss anyone? I know Rudy has a game he wants to try to demo. Is there anyone else who wanted to read, though, before we move on to that?
Yeah, I'll read something.
Cool. All yours, then.
All right, this is about 1,300 words, so if you hate it, you know when it'll be over. This is La Joie de Vivre. Steve had a dream that night about a man with incorrect anatomy. Or it might have been that the man was drawn with incorrect perspective in his mind's eye. It was hard to tell. It was a dream. The man stood in a corner, facing it. The man's pose was sullen, slouch-shouldered. He was like a boy in timeout. He seemed to have too much shoulder on one side, too little shoulder on the other. This too much, this too little, it wasn't a static quality. The side, the degree seemed to change as either time progressed in the dream or perspective shifted. It was hard to tell. It was a dream. The man was wearing a gray flannel suit and a black bowler hat. Under the man's jacket was a thick white shirt. He could see the weave of the cloth. It was the kind that was no longer made, which might be seen in a picture of a destitute somebody in the 1930s. The shirt collar was soiled from many months of abrasive contact with the man's sweaty neck. The man said, "This is how you get it. It is how you get it. This is how you get it." Steve was up at 11:34. He worked at an Irish pub by the pier on weekends, and at a dive bar, landlocked but wet, 4 other nights a week. Today was a day off. He lay in bed with his phone until he was bored and hungry. He got up. He put on a pair of basketball shorts that shimmered purple on the floor. He didn't move through their place to somewhere. He went to the window and looked out with an incomprehension of familiarity. He went to the coffee table and looked at Vogue, Ariana Grande. He went to the bookcase and looked at the books, identifying a complete Harry Potter. He looked at these almost as if he were a visitor, curious what the occupants of this odd little place read. Their place was not the usual 1 or 2 bedroom apartment. It was a pool house that had been converted with drywall, plumbing, and 2 appliances. From beside the pool, it looked like a stuccoed shipping container with a window and a door cut into it. The floors were tile. This morning, it was cool inside. The main house was 3 stories, vaguely Mediterranean, with a rooftop deck overlooking Redondo Beach. It usually stood empty of its owners, the Nybergs, retirees who traveled around the equator and tanned their well-exercised and nourished bodies. The Nybergs had identical white dentures. It's healthier to have them out after a certain age, Mr. Nyberg had said. Mr. Nyberg had been a dentist. They were friendly enough with the landlords. Steve had met them through the pub. They'd interviewed for the place, as if it were a job. The Nybergs seemed charmed by them being a young couple, as if those were rare. Steve went to the fridge. He opened it and looked and closed the fridge. He opened the freezer. There was a new pint of Ben and Jerry's. He took it and got a spoon from the drying rack where most of their dishes and utensils were. He walked into the living room and fell into the couch. He opened the laptop. He tossed the broken plastic ring from the Ben & Jerry's on the table. He levered out the first spoonful of ice cream. Steve thought of Archimedes saying, "Give me a lever long enough and a fulcrum on which to place it, and I will move the world." The ice cream was wonderful. He turned on something easy, something Rachel wasn't actively watching with him. After an episode, he got up, went to the bedroom, and got his phone. He alternated between his phone and the show, tasting. Squiggles of light from the pool reflected through the sliding door onto the roof. He looked up at them once with pleasure and thought the ghosts of snakes shot in the Old West. Eventually, Rachel came home. For now, she worked from 4 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. stocking shelves. She'd been up since 3 a.m. She drove and then for 7.5 hours was cutting plastic with a jiffy cutter, stacking, straightening, lifting. She moved about their place, Steve not paying attention. She went into the kitchenette. She hadn't really noticed him. There was a sound of the fridge seal being split, which he barely heard. "My Ben & Jerry's!" Rachel yelled across the room. She had been looking forward to doing what Steve had done. She noticed he was doing it. He knocked the plastic from the Ben & Jerry's off the table with a jerk of his foot, as if that would hide it. Rachel went into the closet and got Steve's guitar. "I've got your guitar," she announced as she crossed the room. It was propped on her shoulder like the rifle of a soldier on parade. She gripped the curve of its bottom tightly. He was sitting with a foot up on the table. His hairy and plump stomach was bunched. He sat up and directed a smile at her back as she passed. Steve had one irrational moment where he believed she would splinter the wood with her grip. He could almost hear the crack, see the blood dripping from the beloved calloused fingers onto the tile, the white-gray pavement around the pool. She threw open the sliding door with a thud and kicked the screen down. They'd knocked the screen out of its track when they were drunk a few weeks ago, and it had stood leaning near since, an annoyance. But they kept putting it back in the same place, intending to fix it before the Nybergs could come back and notice and upheave their life. "I'm throwing your guitar in the pool," she said. She spun, and she threw. For a moment, her arms were outstretched, her hands were open, and her face was intensely alive. She looked like an Olympian, her pose the completion of a studied excellence. The guitar made a slap against the water as it landed, strings up. Ripples spread over the pool. It floated like an inflatable toy. She walked and stood by the pool in her red t-shirt and khakis. A green parrot flew out of the neighbor's tree. She glanced back as he got up with an involuntary groan. When he moved suddenly, there was usually a way for his back to hurt. He stood beside her. She took off her shirt, so they were both shirtless. Her bra was old, ugly-colored, and comfortable. She took it off. Her arms slackened, and it hung. She dropped it. Her breath quickened her chest, his slow step, their lingering 20s, It was as if they just had sex unexpectedly on the floor, and they were going to have a satiated afternoon ending in more having, as they'd had a few times before. Steve looked at her chest. He felt the sea breeze of Redondo. He looked down at his own nipples, which had hardened. Rachel noticed there were leaves in the pool, which one of them would have to pull out. This was one of the conditions of the below-market rent. This, along with keeping the house and the ground clean for the Nyberg return, and free of burglars, of local teenagers. And, Mrs. Nyberg had added, all spiders, absolutely spiders. Miss Nyberg's white dentures had filled her mouth. I can't stand them, Miss Nyberg had said. Rachel and Steve smelled chlorine and moisture. My fucking ice cream, Rachel said. Steve stood by her, looking at the tar turning on the water. The pick guard was almost the kidney shape of the pool. Rachel screamed, my fish food! They both began laughing. They had to squint at the light reflected up into their faces by the pavement and the water. As they laughed, their eyes filled with tears. What the tears were, emotion, definite or indefinite, pure physical action, some combination. It was hard to tell.
That was fantastic. I love the way you handled just very small, subtle details in that. Like there's such a life to like every object in this piece, which is amazing, you know? And it's not like like you have some authors who like fixate on inconsequential details, but here every detail kind of adds atmosphere and it just kind of like gently builds and gently builds. It's a really good piece. Really enjoyed listening to it.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you so much for reading. Alexandrine has a piece that she wants to read, I think. Are you with us? Oh,
I'm around.
Josh, your piece has been published. I'll tweet out a link to it. What was, sorry, what's your handle on Twitter?
Who? Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much. I'll tweet out a link so that people who are watching this later can find the piece and follow along. Okay.
Follow for follow.
Sorry for interrupting, Alexandrine. It's all yours now.
You're fine. So I figured what I do is, this is something that's like a bunch of fragments. So I figured I would read until like 6:45, and I will just read fragments until then. Does that sound good?
Sounds great.
Okay. The whole thing is called Everything Will Be All Right in the End, an unauthorized biography of Tiger Woods. So that should give you an idea of what you're getting into. So I'm just going to like pick one of these at random. Let's see. Well, I guess a little less than random. Here we go. My father preens like a fag, as my mother would put it. He is meticulous in his grooming, applying lotions, shaving with an almost superhuman patience, tweezing delicately, trimming nails, then applying clear polish, massaging his limbs, brushing hair, then applying, for baffling reasons, white people hair products. Sit-ups, push-ups, picking clothes, never jeans, always a collared shirt, preferably not sneakers, sunglasses, watch. An utter preoccupation with the corporeal. Spiritual enlightenment in a tube of pricey aftershave. Elevate your consciousness by avoiding t-shirts. You are black and will be judged at a higher standard. You are a man and must represent your family. You are what exactly? The sum total of your suburban petty bourgeois accoutrement. Okay. And let's scroll. Let's doom scroll until you find something. When I lost my identity, I gained it back the only way I knew how. I watched my father quietly. I absorbed his ways, his means, ascribed meaning, broke down method. If I could not be like unto my God, Tiger Woods, then I would emulate his high priest, my father. The sum total was that I became a wrathful, spiteful, bitter young man, and I continued to be one until I stopped being a man and started being a woman. A synecdoche is a part of the whole that represents the whole, or vice versa. It can be used as a symbol for something to emphasize certain aspects of the whole, or it can be shorthand for a larger, more complex entity or abstract concept. I abhor talk of the body as euphemism for the human being. It is synecdoche used for evil, a shrinking down and diminishing for the ostensible purpose of creating emphasis. The body of a human being is the sum total of a human being and not a portion of it. The soul is a function of the body, created by an organ known as a brain, which generates consciousness for the evolutionary purpose of more effectively surviving the treachery of the natural world. To talk of the black or queer or female body is to remove the humanity in an effort to create sympathy. We are not bodies. We are human beings with all the complexity that implies. Inside each of our skulls are memories, thoughts, innovations, and connections in flux, combining and recombining into infinite novel forms. We are universes. For most of my life, Tiger Woods was synecdoche for my entire being. Sorry, it's semi-random process. Yes. I bet that Tiger Woods doesn't experience existential crises. I bet he's never unsure of himself or depressed or desperately looking for a way out. I bet he can control his drug problem without the aid of a spiritual program of recovery. I bet his father was nothing but good to him. I bet he never wakes up from night terrors after stabbing his father to death. I bet he doesn't have PTSD or depression or gender dysphoria. I bet he's secure in his sexuality, and I bet he has good relationships with his hundreds of former partners. I bet he smells nice. I bet he doesn't spend lots of time worrying about his chemical intake or the side effects of all the drugs he's on. I bet he and his father still speak all the time, even though his father is dead, and I bet he's happy. In 2009, it was reported that Tiger Woods had been involved in a car accident. Drugs may or may not have been involved, but an unnecessary detail was emphasized that Elin Nordegren, the wife of Tiger Woods, had helped him from the car. Over the next few days and weeks, it came to light that the accident had been the result of a domestic dispute in the happy home, which resulted from Tiger Woods' massive infidelities. He had fucked his way through a seemingly countless number of women, and when confronted by Elin, he somehow managed to drive his car into a tree. Don't ask me how. What a woman is to me. Not a womb, not a breeder, not a fuck doll, not morale gear, not eye candy, not a thing to be consumed or used or spent up, not a caretaker, not a mother, not a saint, not a servant or cook or cleaner. A woman is luminous, heavy, soft, worn, powerful, open, denigrated, despised, beloved, a human being with 2 X chromosomes except when not, a human being who will give birth except when she won't, a human being with a vagina except maybe not, a human being with estrogen except when she can't make it or can't afford it, long hair, short hair, body hair, no hair, teeth crooked or straight, brown skin, blacker than onyx, blacker than love, a pulse, a breath, a declaration of womanhood, a condemnation of womanhood or to womanhood, always a blessing of womanhood, celibate, a fuck machine, someone who lets me cry on them, likes to spit on other women during sex, someone who I let cry on me, sits down to pee, sits down to shit, someone who is reading and angry at this description, the opposite of a wound, my mother, my enemies, maybe the only people who ever loved me, and not a man. And I think I'm going to stop there. on Not a Man, which is the Judi Dench from Cats school of describing things. So
That was really, really good. I love like the pieces that are like fundamentally like a reflection on the irreducibility of human life, and you all the like I wanted to say Schenectady, which is a city, but all of the stuff on like the fundamental like irreducibility, excuse me, of human life, with all of our contradictions, with all the bullshit, with all like and using like Tiger Woods, who's like at once like both this like incredible role model to so many people who seemed like who was held up as this kind of like perfect like Aristotelian idea of like an athlete and a father and a black man, right? And how that crumbles, like the like erosion of like the idol of Tiger Woods contrasted with this idea of like the irreducibility of human life and human imperfection. It's just a really, really great idea. Like conceptually, it's so good.
thanks. Yeah, that was the idea. It was just a weird like experiment originally in trying to write a memoir, and I realized that like my memories are so shit, my memories are so shit that there's no way I could write a proper memoir. So it just came down to like, well, then it'll be all nice and fragmented, and then it was just kind of tracking how my life and Tiger Woods is kind of went on the same path for a little while, and there was some similarity there, even though I'm like way different as a person, and like where they came together and veered off. And it's a weird thing, but I like it.
Don't
No, it's
don't,
a
don't
sorry,
give up
Josh.
don't give up on the idea of a memoir. I would actually love to read a memoir in the format that you've just presented. You know, there are books like Talon and Mira Gonzalez of A Book Out of Tweets and whatnot, and I think that like maybe, I don't know, there is a way to understand what you're saying with in terms of like the feeling the constraints of like a memoir, and I think maybe there's a way to do that by continuing what you've done here, if that's of interest to you. I'm just saying I don't give up on that idea.
Well, thanks. So what I did was I got to 78 and I put it together into a book, and I started trying to see if anyone was interested in it.
Yeah.
And I figure I'll either leave it at 78 and it'll just be like a short little like chapbook, or I'll keep writing and it can be like a longer thing. But the more of a gimmick I use, the less steam I have. So
No, let me know if it finds a home, okay? I really want to see the full thing, you know.
will do.
And
I'm
I'll
sorry
definitely
sorry if that comment was
too.
patronizing for me. Yeah, of course you might have considered doing that. I just, I think that, I
Oh, no, you're good.
want to read more.
I'm glad that you want to read more. I took it as encouragement more than like patronizing, so you're good.
Yes, thanks.
So I thank you so much for reading, Alexandrine, and I think Damien is up next. I think Damien sent me a message.
Fuck yeah.
Are you still with us, Damien?
Fucking go.
Through the ether, yes. Can I be heard?
Josh's package got here.
Actually, not yet, but you know what? That's the thing, people never know. Anyways,
Okay, Damien, it's all yours. It's all yours.
we're actually having a debate about pricing of the Amazon package. So, yeah, sorry.
Are you going to read from Fucked Up?
No.
No. Oh shit. Okay.
By the way, Damien, I don't think, maybe we've seen each other at readings, but I am going to read Fucked Up. I'm going to order it from Expat, and I look forward to reading it. It seems
Oh, well, thank you.
a lot of people, no, but I wasn't saying that. I just see a lot of people sharing images, like a lot of writers I really admire. Ellie Nash, I saw post something, and when I saw the width, I mean, it's a thick boy, right? and but it's a thick boy, and I think that's really rare in alt-lit. And
One might say
It's
girthy.
not alt-lit. Please do not. I didn't mean to get angry. In fact,
cyber, okay, so I'm sorry, let me use a more appropriate term, cyber writing. In cyber writing, it's really rare to see a book that wide. I'm just saying, sometimes I read stuff from indie publishers, and I love the 83-page book, but I'm just saying, like, sometimes stuff seems incomplete in that format. So I'm fascinated to see what you have done in this medium at that length.
now I will say that there is an alt-lit writer in the book as a character. So keep your eyes out on that. And yeah, her book is pretty short like that.
Yeah, and which is fine. I love all lengths of books. I love the 1 inch and the whatever. But just yeah. So I'm sorry, I'm distracting. I want to hear.
It's not the length, it's how you use it.
Yeah. But yeah, just no. I'm fascinated. I seriously, I just saw this week the fucked up thing going all over Twitter, and I have to order it now. I have a government job. I can afford it. I gotta invest in the arts. But anyways.
Yeah, it's a fucking phenomenon. It's all over the place. I just got mine today. It's so I saw like half of the chat held up their copy, so it's so fucking good.
But William, would you say? I mean, I know that obviously there's now some debate over whether it's alt-lit, but would you say it's cyber writing?
Dark web writing.
Okay, this is good. And for those of you in the cyber writing group chat, which doesn't exist, we should, after this meeting, get together and talk about how we're going to address this. That's all.
Okay. So it's Hanukkah. So I thought I'd read something kind of festive. And I'll start with, oh wow, cool. So Keith, you know what happens to the alt-lit writer, I'm guessing. Okay. Yeah, so I'm gonna start with the poem, and then I'm gonna start with the reading. Today, my muscles collapse into warm wheatgrass, and every tendon aches and sweats like a fuck. And I love it like Texas, even if Texas was the one that betrayed me the most. O mother of pearl that gave me a burning copper mouth, you and your fiery crystalline hands. I was an Iowa child. There was a calamity of familial angels, dissected, molested, abused, homelessness. I am a Texas child. I am a forest child. Nothing feels better than wearing a tank top and the thinnest, shortest shorts on a 105-degree day in the summer, thinking of what we want to dress up as in October. Remember the lime green alien mask costume, or the skeletal mask with the heart full of blood that scared all the children in the neighborhood, or the Halloween you weren't there and I was chewing on roasted pumpkin seeds watching Courage, the dread of being here now, trapped in fear of an icy pearlless December, all the wreckage and skewed car parts. You left this place for the same reasons, the hopelessness and the suicide attempts at 16, the rapists and poverty and meth and snow, traveling the states in an RV with your parents as they drilled holes into the earth for little to no money, only to destroy their bodies. And now I'm here, and you can find me here, mother of 1,000 suns going supernova, how I still love you after every bruise, to see you again this late May and feel the summer heat again, diving into the swimming pool with all these fresh wounds on my legs, open for you to trace and hide from. Seasons change, climate changes, Texas calls for me, mother, have I changed it all? Fourth grade gym class. For the first 5 minutes, we're allowed to talk to one another freely before we do stretches and then shift to our other routine activities. That means I'd have 5 minutes for me to sit around and watch everyone else that's standing up and conversing while I'm anxiously twiddling my fingers around in my lap. When it's over, I finally stand up, and then Big Bully Bryce comes up to me and thrusts a thumb into my chest. Hey, you know what GAP stands for, right? He keeps nudging at the gray Gap hoodie that my mom bought me from the mall that she works at. It means that you're gay and proud. GAP. Get it, faggot? You're a gay wad. His thumb manifests into a fist that pummels into my stomach. I grip it and cough violently as the air is knocked right out of my little fragile body, while I'm also hoping nobody just witnessed that. Thank God that nobody did. When I get home, I yank all of my Gap clothes out of my closet, toss them against the plastic Crayola red race car mattress that my dad picked out for me when we moved here. And then I tell my mom how I want to dress from now on. I want to look like Bryce, make me look like the other boys on my baseball team. No more stripes and polos and polka dots or baggy blue pants. But we're poor. She sells most of it, and then I get all the Trini clothes that match what the other cool kids have. I'm standing in front of the mirror in my room, young Anakin Skywalker poster to the left of it. And then I check myself out. Basketball shorts, half calf high, black socks with 2 white stripes at the top, Converse shoes, Pink Floyd t-shirt with Dark Side of the Moon album cover on it, bought from Target. Mom, what's a faggot? She tells me about my gay uncle and a gay cousin that I have. How I shouldn't use that word, how daddy hates them. But she thinks that they're the friendliest people that she knows. They're men that like men. Like Riley? 2 words like an avalanche, like the tornado that hit mom's house when she was a little girl, like the unintended pregnancy at age 17, like teen homelessness, like smoking crack and jumping off your high school rooftop, like laying a close friend watching over your son when your son walks in to find you sobbing on a toilet seat, but you're not pooping, so he asks what's wrong, like when you see your son holding a kitchen knife under the computer table, like finding out that you're a faggot forever just like him and you're not sure you'll ever find out what that means. The hospital that I was born inside of is now a slaughterhouse with a pool of blood near one side of it. You can smell the slaughtered cattle day and night throughout the entire small Midwest town. Most of the people living there now are in poverty, on meth, or have $1 million house hidden behind massive hills of sweet corn. The synagogue that was once there became a church not too long after my birth. With that, the small Jewish population left it all behind. Now I live in a city where a new slaughterhouse just opened up in the poorest, most gang-ridden area of it all. When I smell these corpses, I'm reminded of my childhood, my ancestors, everything related to me. And all I can see is soaked in blood, waiting to be sucked into the bone-shredding machines and molded to gelatin. My great-grandmother might have been able to escape Hitler, but I'm sure I'll get my brains blown out for being a faggot and a Jew soon enough, and the rest of my family massacred later on. Not done yet. My mother worked in malls all across the Metroplex, managing various stores, always winning awards for best customer service and management. Her employers following her like a flock of sheep wherever she went from one job to another, from Victoria's Secret to Coach, selling expensive furniture. Behind each department store was the back rooms where all the items were kept, along with my mother's office. Behind that door were hallways like tentacles that led to other storerooms and inevitably to places like the dumpster, stairways, the rooftop, the security room. Not all the malls had cameras inside of the tentacles of their hidden white cavities. There were times when my parents couldn't afford daycare bills. Dad couldn't take me to work, so I'd often have to come with my mom to the mall. Usually that meant staring at handbags, women's lingerie, kids' clothes, sorting through things for her and following the other employees around, getting a few dollars from them so I could roam the mall and have solitary fun on my own. Sometimes on lunch break, Mom would catch me in Hot Topic and then she'd buy some CDs for herself, shitty post-grunge and alternative rock that everyone else listened to. Other times I'd go ice skating. Eventually, they knew me by name, by my mother's name, and let me come by as much as I wanted to for free. I stare at the North Park sculptures, talk to famous people. Mama, I want to live in these malls. I love the architecture. Can I stay here forever? I don't want to go back to daycare. It's boring there. I don't even have real friends there. They bully me. Nobody liked me. Do you even love me? I don't want to go to school. Doing homework in the cafeteria, eating Chinese food. One of your coworkers tells me about the life of Felda Kuti. We go to ice skating together. I get closer with her and the other coworkers than to you and Dad. You're both so busy working like psychotic machines. Grandma visits. Dad picks me up from the mall and I'm in the back. Grandma's in the passenger. She asked me if I believe in angels. It's a fucking shame you're raising him as a Jew, you know. We Catholics. Mom, I don't even believe in God. You let them fucking win this shit? Okay, D. Do you believe in angels? Oh, I don't know. I've never seen one before. So I don't think so. See, this is what happens when you raise a kid with a Jew and an atheist. I'll take him to a church. I'll show him. You're not taking him to fucking shit. Mom, if you don't shut the fucking hell up, I'll slam on the fucking... See, you're scaring him. He doesn't even know what the fucking Holocaust is yet. If you ever say any of this religion shit to my son again, I'll fucking make sure you never see him again. One of Mom's biggest pet peeves in the mall was the Christmas music, which seemed to start as soon as Halloween came to an end. Mom didn't even believe in God, but she took me to Shabbat services. She wanted me to be a good Jew, to police the Jewish side of my family. It didn't even matter if I paid attention or learned Hebrew. I just had to prove to her grandparents that I went. Feels like I'm constantly being indoctrinated. At least you can wear a yarmulke. Actually, don't do that. You'll get bullied and called a faggot kike, especially with your fucking lisp. If I wore a Star of David at work, I might not get as good as ratings or promotions. I don't even believe in any of that stupid fucking God shit anymore, so fuck it. I was at daycare that day, but someone jumped down 4 stories from the high rise at the mall and landed right into the skating rink. Kasplat. Dead as fuck. Mom went into a blackout. Mom was probably thinking of when she tried to jump off her high school rooftop in 10th grade, not too long before she got pregnant with me. Just depressed on some coke binge, probably not wanting to go with my parents on another fucking pipelining trip to fucking wherever. Sorry for not seeing how hard you had been working just to give me a fucking chance, and how much you wanted to protect me, but it was just impossible. There's so many fucking rapists in this world. You know that better than I do, though. There's a jar of sand on Mom's desk that I made at daycares for Mother's Day. I don't know what colors are in it, though, because I'm colorblind. She's never at her office because she's busy trying to win all these awards so that she doesn't have to have me here and can afford to put me back in daycare again or back to baseball practice. Maybe some new clothes I like too, not this tacky shit that I get bullied over. Ironically, the favorite mall my mother worked at was the one where I was molested, the one with the $1 million sculptures, first life memory. Mom sobbing and hitting the liquor hard while Dad was screaming at her while we were living in an apartment. Fuck this shitty job, fuck retail. I'll never dress like a clown and sell children's clothes ever again. I'll sell women's lingerie from now on. Hiding under the computer desk in the office with the kitchen knife, Dad finds me, asks why I have the knife. I tell him that I thought he was going to kill Mom. I gave him the knife. He embraces me with a genuine hug, confessing that he's trying to do better for me, Mom too. And then I go back to the computer to play backyard baseball. Still, shit could be a lot fucking worse, like losing your 5-year-old child in the bathroom mall when he goes for a pee. A couple of hours later, he's amnesiac, completely dressed but his underwear is missing, hidden in the tentacles of the mall's white cavities with no evidence to be traced back to the perpetrator. Then you say, fuck it, let him keep roaming these malls, he's got thick skin. When the stores had to be randomly renovated over the matter of a few nights, and Mom would have to work overtime to the max, like 80 hours or some crazy shit, sleeping in the back room in the parking lot, vomiting in the back seat, sobbing and beating her head against the wheel of the car. I'd sleep over at one of her friend's high-rise apartments in Fort Worth, and how it felt like I was above cotton clouds, him and I watching Tarzan, Robin Hood, Jungle Book, all on VHS. I slip out of the bottom part of his bunk bed, get dressed, and we talk about the shit, like rigging the Dave & Buster's machines, Lego sets that just came out at the new Lego store, going ice skating, that crazy suicide, let's touch dicks again sometime, and I borrow your mom's Tool CD collection, DBZ on Toonami, getting lost in the mall's hallways, dressed in my Halloween skeleton costume, wearing ice skating shoes. The dumpster smells worse than the farms back home in Iowa. Hot Dallas shit bags spewing into the dumpster. A young man that worked as a dishwasher for the Cheesecake Factory gave me a snack out by that dumpster. Asked if he could kiss me on my cheek. I squeezed a plastic heart in my right hand that was filled with red dye, fake blood. I took off the mask for him. He pecked his lips to mine, and then I skated off, hands rattling, my heart like a time bomb. And I don't know why. When I made it back to the skate rink, all I could do was sit there and watch the others. And that's it.
Wow, Christ. That was so fucking good. I, what I really liked about that piece is the way the like horror escalates. Like it begins almost as a kind as like a kind of slice of life domestic like one of those like growing up gay stories, right? And there are a lot of stories like that where it's like you're coming to terms with who you are and you're a kid and you're discovering like identity and you're dealing with domestic situations, and then it gets more and more and more terrifying and more disturbing and more upsetting as it goes along. And I really appreciate that because it totally dismantles whatever expectations you have for the piece at the beginning of the piece. It's just really good, just really good.
Thank you. That's all real, by the way.
Yeah, I feel like, I just commented, like, I really thought that I had read, like, the best religious story tonight. It was pretty good. And I feel totally cucked
No.
by your, to co-op some alt writing. But just, yeah, that was very good.
Yeah, lots of like childhood trauma stories about religion tonight.
I love the details that you choose to focus on in that stuff though. Like even you say it's all true, but you're still like pointing the camera, zooming in and out at different aspects of it, and like describing the architecture of the underneath of them, like little things like that are just that's what to me they made the story. It's so good.
Yeah, the like Cthulian architecture, the mall, that's like so tremendously good and so in keeping with like the experience of being a kid and not like architecture just doesn't fucking make sense as a kid. Everything is disorganized and weird. And then you go back to these spaces as an adult and you're like, oh, that's just a hallway. Yeah, really good.
Yeah.
And one other like really quick thing, I like the way this piece uses profanity too, because the profanity in the piece actually escalates as the piece gets more and more like upsetting and terrifying. And by the end, like there are so many, like the fucks per minute are at like max. But at the beginning, it's more, I don't know, at least from me, what I was listening, it felt more like reserved. The language felt more, maybe formal isn't the right word, but it felt a little more benign and considerate. And by the end, it's so vicious.
Yeah, I grew up with a lot of fucks, a lot of explicit language. I feel like the word fuck was in every single sentence of everything that someone would say. So
I guess that might have played a role in the title of your book.
who knows? Maybe, yeah.
Thank you so much for reading, Damien.
Thank you.
Did we have anyone else who wanted to read, or should we move on to Rudy's game demo? No, I don't see. I know, Rudy, did anyone put in the chat that they wanted to read? I didn't see anything.
I didn't see anyone, but if you want to get in here.
Yeah, cool. Rudy, I think it's all yours. I think it's 100% yours now. I'm going to step away for a minute. My bladder is acting up as usual, but the floor
too much iced tea.
Yeah, it's hot tea now. We've reached that point where, yeah.
I'll wait till you get back then, because I might need your help.
Oh, okay. Well, actually, I can help you get this set up then, if you need help with that.
Oh no, I mean you can go. I'll just wait.
Okay, cool. I'll be
going on some stuff anyway.
Every week there's an elaborate like deal to try to get him to leave while it is still recording, and then we get to do whatever we want, but he's not going to come back and like edit it because he's admitted he's too lazy.
Well, no, as I said, he actually will. He will edit. And
yeah, but that was like court ordered, you know.
The court
Well,
mandated edit.
it would have been very bad. It would have been very bad for me if he hadn't, especially given certain legal things going on. But yeah, but he's a real sport. Like, you know what I find? Yeah, I can't claim to be anywhere near where Elizabeth Aldrich is, though. I have any of you written her?
No, I haven't. I wanted to. I wasn't sure about the rules of the.
Yeah.
Place
So
you guys are
apparently it's like not of course a guaranteed thing, but I just I don't know. I admire her a lot, so I like to be tangentially related, and I was like, oh, there's two of us facing criminal charges. So I tried to wrap myself into but yeah, it seems different in America. Firstly, that she's in jail and I'm not. So
Yeah, American jails are a little different as far as what they allow and how draconian the rules are. Especially around the holidays, I guess, because there's a lot of stuff coming in and they have to do a lot more scanning.
do you know if there's anything we shouldn't mention? Because I actually want to write her, because literally the day the night she was arrested was the night it was on her podcast with me. And she called me, or I called her rather. She asked to just like, can you call me? Like, just talk. And we were just talking. And then we started talking, and then 20 minutes in, I was like, wait, like, is this your podcast? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, oh, wow. I shouldn't have said a lot of what I said. I have some legal things going on. This is not good. And then I overheard the fight that nothing bad. It just whatever. I heard a skirmish, and then she was in jail, and it was nuts. But I wanted to write her, and I worry though that it will be intercepted because border security and prison guards love to exercise power. I've had a friend who was in the right, and they had to get the governor of a state to override what a prison guard, a border security $20 an hour person had done.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Like, that's how crazy.
Some of them are overzealous for sure. I mean, I know up here it's definitely, on the American side of the border, it's definitely pretty crazy.
I'm actually gonna probably write a complete. I don't think it'll be a sonnet, but a series of poems for Eris.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, I'm completely wasted. So just, I'm gonna mute myself now.
Yeah, no, I've been meaning to write Eris a letter ever since Manuel posted her address up, and it's like, I don't know, what do you say? Like, I don't know, it just seems weird, but I also feel bad, like, because I know how like isolating that must be and everything. I don't know, maybe I will, or maybe like she'll get out and then I'll be like, damn.
I think it might be good for her, just as someone who, like, I don't know, I feel like we have the same energy. I don't understand her, but I always think if I went to prison, I would come out fucking swole. Like, there's nothing to do but work out. Like, I would come back from prison fucking without well, I'd probably still have addictive tendencies, but I'm just saying I'd be fucking working out every day, because I'd be reading and working out. It just seems like someone should throw me in prison. And I'm not saying that flippantly about what she's gone through. I'm just saying I've thought about this, and I truly think that would be good for me. So if anybody wants to report me for
well, keep that in mind, Josh.
Awesome.
No, I think I do pretty well in solitary confinement, honestly, but I think I do very, very poorly in prison.
Listening to Canadian radio, right? Like, you're
Yeah.
Do you
why
think the gin
you about
gin
fire.
pop is what would get you?
Yeah. That's ditto for me. I would not do well in general population.
Anyway, Rudy, you have a game you want to demo here.
Sure.
So what's up? This is something you've been working on for a few weeks, right? Or a couple weeks?
Yeah, probably a month or so now. It's in a pretty sad state, I guess. It's a 2-player abstract strategy game. So for all you chess folks, I guess it's not chess, but it's kind of inspired by, if you've heard of Chris Broom's Tamsk, which was one of his games and his collection of these little weird games. I think he's a Danish guy or some. He designs a lot of abstracts, but it's basically a strategy game for 2 players. So I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen.
Now, hopefully it will allow you to. I might have to
Yeah,
give
I'm not.
permission to screen share because I think
That's
a while ago I turned that off because those kids kept posting all that hardcore pornography.
I mean, if it does.
Were we just like attacked by like a group of like, was this a group that was like attacked by like Zoomers who were?
Yeah, a bunch of kids came in and were sharing like porn and like videos of like all kinds of shit.
Why,
Like,
why did we kick them out though? I feel like that's only empowering them.
I mean, it definitely was. It was hard to hear though.
If you can't, Rudy, maybe I can screen share and show the game off.
Okay, sure.
Let me I'm just opening Google Chrome so you don't see all my Firefox tabs.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Not that I have anything to hide. They're mostly just Wikipedia.
How many? How many tabs?
How many tabs?
How many tabs today?
I'm still counting if that tells you something. currently 19 tabs open in
19
Firefox.
tabs, nice. That's actually not a lot, honestly.
Oh my god.
That's not a lot for him.
So my OCD, I can not have more than 3 or I'll have a panic attack. Like,
I use the tabs in Firefox as a way to remember, like, I'm going to look at this, and then I'll open shit and just leave it open forever and never look at it.
It looks like I'm disabled on my end, so he might have to enable it, or if not, that's fine.
Okay, let me see
Try
if
something
there's
else.
a way to. There's a more tab here. Let's see, make host. I'm worried if I do that, it might fuck up the recording.
Yeah, I
allow
wouldn't do
record.
that.
I can put you in a waiting room, but I don't think that's going to be good. I don't see something here for screen sharing, but if you want to put the link to the game in.
Yeah, I'll send you the link.
And then I'll screen share.
Why won't this Somali respond to the text message?
Somali.
Okay.
Just send it to you.
Yep.
I really like each one of these as its own short story, and the fact that the story, tonight is going to end with the Amazon delivery is really nice.
Okay, I am going to, I'm just going to carefully, let's see, close my Skype. People can't accidentally see any Skype conversations, and then I'm going to screen share.
Sorry, when you screen share, you can actually screen share just a window.
Oh.
With Zoom, so you can just share.
So I don't have to worry about that. I can just share the Chrome window. Okay.
I believe that'll just show your Chrome window and nothing else.
There we go.
Ooh, there you go.
Does that look right?
That looks right. Let me get into mine here. All right, so do you want to set up the room or shall I?
Oh, yeah, right. I'm going to have to play this if...
I can set up the room if you'd like.
I'll set up the room. What do you want me to name the room?
You can name it anything you want. I just ask that anybody watching don't get in the room. Oh, heathen? Is that what you said?
Even
No, penis.
Oh, penis. Oh, yeah,
of course.
fair enough.
Why
Yeah,
would
why
it be
not?
anything but penis? All
Yeah,
in
why?
caps.
Duh. All
Okay.
caps.
Yeah.
All right, I'm coming in.
So
In
I
the room.
want you to like talk about
So I'm,
the game. Like tell us
yeah.
the rules and tell us about the inspiration and yeah. Because the actual gameplay itself is going to be very underwhelming since I cannot
Yeah.
play this. I've tried it with Rudy a couple of times and I'm really bad about I'm really bad at spatial strategy games.
Okay.
And I'm just gonna fumble around. So
Yeah, I'm actually, this is something I just started working on, so I'm not sure myself about the strategy. I've only played it with William. But this is a two-player abstract game where all the pieces have a gender. So players can flip the pieces to make them into a different gender. And pieces also have a status. I'll just read from this little thing I prepared here. It just tells about the rules. So pieces have a status. All these pieces you see here, there's 5 for each player. So their status can be alpha, beta, or liminal. The status is tied to the piece's hourglass timer, which if, William, you're the host, if you want to start it up, maybe we can I'll just click around here and show, or you can click around and show,
gotcha. So
show
just
off
hit the
this.
start button here.
Yep.
Okay.
And what it's doing now is it's generating the board, which is going to be the space where we play on. So I'm getting ready now, but William, you're blue, I believe, so you should be able to click the blue pieces and kind of show off what some of the things are.
I'll go from left to right, okay? And as I click on them, you can talk about them.
Sure. So that thing on the right-hand side is the timer, and each piece has an hourglass timer, and it's unique to each piece. And it's a measure of its masculinity or femininity, which is a game mechanic in this. So the status dwindles as the sand in the top timer bulb, which is the active gender, runs into the bottom one, which is the target gender. So a piece starts as an alpha male, like say the one all the way to the left on the red side, actually. Yeah, so a piece that starts as an alpha male will gradually become a beta male, then a liminal male. And when the piece has no more sand in its timer, it becomes an alpha, the opposite gender. So this one would flip to an alpha female, and it's considered gender locked, which means that the player can't flip it anymore.
How does the soy status play in though? Like,
so I guess that would be liminal status, and that's a good point. And I'll cover that in a second because that's actually fairly important. The liminal status. It's important for a kind of hidden information element. But the goal of the game is to have the most pieces on the dominant color when one of the following conditions is met. So either all individual piece timers, which are 30 seconds, and the player can flip them at any time they want. So when all individual piece timers have stopped moving, or when one side has no starting pieces remaining, the starting pieces are the 5 that you see right there, or when 20 turns have passed. So I'll just go down the line of the pieces. Each piece or each side has 5 pieces that do different things. And from right to left on the bottom, the blue pieces. So violence pieces, which William has clicked on now, those are essentially pieces that capture. They do violence. That's what they do. They're violent boys and girls. Manipulation pieces, which is the next one over. They basically control the flow of the game by freezing or unfreezing the timers, which are an important element of controlling how the game progresses, basically. Because once all the timers are over, then the game is over, and whatever state the board is in, that's who wins. And then there's space pieces, which is the next one over there. And those can change the color of spaces. So that's a pretty important thing because as you see now, female is dominant. But if you were to change it to male, like right now, I'm red pieces. So I'm winning right now because I have 4 pieces on the dominant gender, which is female. The white spaces are male. The dark colored ones are female. So if the gender were to change to male, then I wouldn't be winning anymore. So that would be kind of an important thing. Then if you go over to the next one, libido, Libido pieces can sacrifice themselves to create a piece that spawns other pieces, and that piece can capture. So that's kind of important for like board control and stuff like that. And then if you go over to the next one, those are the gaze pieces, which restrict movement and basically options to move around. So like gaze can paralyze pieces, or they can stop pieces from flipping. That's the deal with that. Yeah, so the male gaze. So the score is at the top, and if you're currently ahead, you'll see a message on the top right saying that you're favored, which means you're ahead in the game. The dominant gender, which is also in the top right, shows what spaces you want to have your pieces on when the game ends. So, like I said, it's 1 to 4 right now. That's just the state the board started in. So currently, red player, that's me, is ahead pretty significantly. So on your turn, you have as much time as you need to analyze the state of the board. But there's a button, and you'll see it on William's screen when it's his turn. You're limited to 5 seconds of action time. So this is a turn-based game, but you have to kind of consider the state of the board before you act, and then you hit the action button, and then you have 5 seconds to basically do everything that you want to do. But you're limited, so you're limited to 5 seconds of action. That's clicking around and flipping pieces, doing all that stuff. And while all this is happening, these timers are running. The timers don't run while the game is paused. So in this state, the timers are currently paused, they're not running. But during the action period, all the timers are running. So captures, which violence can do, the heart pieces can do, and one other piece, the space piece, can do it after it becomes gender locked. Captures are restricted once the timer hits 1 second, and that's more of a desync thing, basically, so that the game doesn't become, over the network, the game doesn't become fucked up, pretty much. But captures are restricted once you hit 1 second, so you can't capture at or below 1 second. And you should be able to see the other player moving around on their turn, and you can also look at what your pieces do while the other player is moving shit around. So that's that. And yeah, I know it's not a really great explanation. Like I said, I'm still kind of working on what everything does here. So, but with that, yeah, I'm still getting here. Okay, with that, I think I'm ready to go. If you are, William.
Okay. No, just for the hourglass, the top of the hourglass is male and the bottom is female. Is that?
Well, the top of the hourglass is the gender that's currently flipped upwards. So, for that
How
piece,
do you tell which one is flipped upwards?
you can tell by the the one you have clicked on now that says alpha female.
Oh, okay. It's under the name right here. Gotcha.
Yep.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So yeah, so I will go ahead and start my turn. Like I said, I have about 5 seconds to do the turn. And hopefully, oh yep, I can see it moving around here. That'll be my turn. And I did move the execute button to the middle there. That was just a thing so that both players have equal access to it.
What piece did you just move?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I just moved the violence piece.
Okay.
It's an alpha female violence. That's a piece that aggresses on the board and basically goes out and kills other people's pieces.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, I am going to try to move a piece. I don't understand basically anything, but I'm going to, if I can move this piece up like that. Can I? Oh, I can keep moving.
You can.
Oh, okay.
You have 5 seconds total to do stuff.
Now, what I don't know is whether my gaze piece is actually going to paralyze your piece, because I didn't look to see if it was male or female or what. But
yeah, it's a male gaze, so it did stop me from flipping. So there's that.
Gotcha.
Okay, so I'm going to take a look here at my options. So currently it's 2 to 4 in my favor. So strategically here, like, I should basically just try to hold the line, like just destroy your pieces or just stall pretty much. So
right.
what I'm going to do, and I know this isn't a real game. We're just kind of playing around, just showing what the options are here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unpause. Then I'm going to manipulate that violence female with my manipulation piece, and I'm going to move her over. Oh, and I don't have time to capture the gaze. But yeah, I'll just move it.
Gotcha. So let me try to do something. Let me see if I can flip this guy. How would I flip?
Middle mouse button is a flip.
Oh, oops. Guess I didn't do that.
Sorry about that. I thought.
What's currently on the right mouse button? Is anything currently on the right mouse button?
Right mouse button will cancel.
Out
of the
gotcha.
special pieces there. All right, so I am going to start her up again, and I'm going to capture your gaze piece. I'm going to flip the female so I can move towards you with the violence. Male violence moves towards enemy pieces. Female violence tends to move towards friendly pieces.
Gotcha. Okay, I'm gonna try to do something, and I don't know if it's gonna work, but nope, didn't work.
Oops, yeah, he's male. So.
I thought mine was female though.
No, yours was an alpha male. The libido piece.
Oh, okay.
So the way that works is basically the male piece. If you try to breed it with a male piece, it will destroy it. If you try to breed it with a female piece, a male one, they'll breed and then they'll make another piece. Yeah. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to start up again here, and I'm going to hide within that piece, and then I'm going to bring down this guy here.
So how do you hide within a piece?
So the male violence, the male violence can hide within pieces that are more masculine than them, or they can capture pieces that are less masculine than them.
Gotcha. Okay, what do I just secret release on? Okay. Okay, I'm just gonna
Oh, he's revealed. Uh-oh.
Oh, he was on. Oh, what the fuck?
He was hiding. So, what that's let me do is put me in a position where I can, since this piece is time locked, it's frozen, I can now flip it to female. Female can move within her row and capture all of these pieces. Most of them. I wasn't able to capture all of his pieces, but.
Damn. Okay, I'm getting the fuck out of here. Bye.
Run. Forrest. And now that piece has been paralyzed by the gaze. So the female gaze has paralyzed that piece to make it easier for me to capture, and I think I can end the game.
Yep. And that's game.
that's that.
So I want to know, like, what I want to know here is, like, what's the inspiration?
Definitely, yeah.
For this game, especially like the gender stuff, because there's obviously some like thematic shit going on here, and I want to understand it. And I'm gonna actually stop sharing my screen at this point.
Yeah. So the game elements of itself are actually inspired by the game Tamps by Chris Broom, which is actually, believe it or not, a game that uses timers in a similar way, where each piece is an hourglass, literally, and you flip the hourglass over to basically control the flow of the game. And it's a really strange game. It involves like kind of territory dominance and like placing rings and all kinds of weird shit. But it's so that's the mechanical inspiration of it. Obviously, the thematic inspiration is a little different. It's basically gender and that kind of stuff. My own experiences with gender stuff, just thoughts running through my head and that kind of shit. As far as that, the pieces don't map. I mean, obviously, there's stuff like the male gaze. The male gaze. I mean, it's a thing that's known on Twitter, certainly. But all the idea of a territory control game that's focused around gender is something that I wanted to do for a long time, because gender in social media, I feel a lot of times is a real battleground, and so the idea of a literal gender battleground game, I think, is what I was going for this, as far as the thematic elements. And there's there's little things in here. Like the idea of masculinity, or each piece has a masculinity. The idea of liminal sexuality or liminal gender, where you're kind of between, in a threshold or transitional, a transitional state of gender, I guess. The idea that people aren't necessarily one thing or the other, I guess, comes into play. That sort of thing. That's definitely, it's all inspired by that. But just the idea of an abstract that uses gender as the focus was kind of, that's been on my mind for a while, so I did it.
Yeah, it's a really cool idea. Now, I know you sent the link to me privately. Is that because this isn't ready to be betaed yet, or this isn't ready?
Yeah, no,
yeah.
I wouldn't post the link on Twitter. Just because it might change. The game might change,
Gotcha.
tomorrow or tonight or whatever.
You want to put it in the chat so that the people who are here can play around with it if they want and send you feedback if they want?
Yeah, definitely. I can definitely link to it. This is the current alpha build right now.
The
you can
Misery Trism only alpha.
Closed alpha. Yep.
Yeah.
So thank you. There is actually other stuff on the site, but I don't think it's really publicly available at this point. But that's the site I host all my stories and that kind of shit on. But yeah, you can play this if you go to the site. Somebody just has to host the game. It's all peer-to-peer. There's no server infrastructure or anything like that. But you can play the game with someone else, just by, typing in a name in the start thing, hit enter, and then they do the same. They type the same name, and it'll go to your game. And if you're the host, you just hit start, and then you can start playing the game from there. And anyone who wants them, I can send the rules over, or my little write-up of, the rules as they are right now. Like I said, it's currently kind of in an alpha stage, and it's changing all the time. So that's the basics of it.
Cool. Yeah, I'll be interested to see, like, if people do kind of alpha it, kind of play around with it. And
yeah, definitely. If you want to play around with it, do so. This is a fully playable version of it. It's not particularly balanced, but it's playable.
Cool. Yeah, thanks, man. Do we have anyone else who wants to read, or should I? Are we ready to kind of close out the reading for tonight? Didn't see kind of last call here. No. All right. I think that's good. I think we'll call it a night there. We'll be, as usual, I'll kind of leave the Zoom chat open for a while. But yeah, this has been Misery Loves Company. We do this, as I said at the top, every Friday night, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern time. If you're watching this, maybe check us out next week. Okay, thank you to everyone who read. As usual, this was fucking awesome. Yeah, and yeah, everyone have a good night. And I don't know, I don't really have a way to sign off here. Okay, that's just fuck it. That's it.